Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how I made my gel printed business cards. This is an idea that I've had for a while, and I had a conference to go to this weekend, so in true Lindsay fashion, I did this the night before. I put a piece of 8.5 by 11 pattern paper under my gel press plate just so I would know kind of how big to make my printing area, and then I threw some paint and a stencil down on top. Now I printed my business card information on some just plain white inexpensive cardstock, and that's what I'm going to be pulling my prints on. This is just the inexpensive Georgia Pacific cardstock. Now I really like this idea because you can do this at home. It's going to have a really awesome look to it because every little card is going to be like a little individual print, and I thought this would just be such a fun way to do business cards, being that I'm an artist and illustrator. It would just be a fun, something fun to hand out at a writer's conference I was going to and maybe stick in people's minds. When they look back at the card later. So I'm going to be showing you a few examples here of just different textures that I got. This was a ghost print of the stencil I just showed you a second ago. So after you do your first print and remove the stencil and print again, you end up with this really ghosty print. The paint I'm using is from jerrysartorama.com. It is the Turner acrylic gouache, which is really matte, and I'm using the regular kind, which is just opaque color, and I'm also using the pearl and glitter kind. I'm using some plastic canvas mesh there to press some texture into the plate, and I'm using a roller foam stamp to add some texture as well. I always look for stuff like this when I'm at the craft store in the clearance bin because they're always handy for doing textures on my gel press plates. This is a gel press brand plate, but there are other brands out there. There's one by Speedball, and there's also one by Jelly Arts. So use whatever you have. I really like the gel press ones, and I like this large 12 by 14 size because I can make a variety of different size prints. And there you can see what you get when you do the kind of texturing with the stamps and the mesh. I think it's really cool. And don't worry about messy prints because you're going to layer and you'll get some really interesting designs. Now this is a cardboard stencil from Faber-Castell. They come in packs of 10, and I really like using them for gel printing because when I'm using the acrylic paint like this, after I'm done, I just set them to dry, and as you get layers of acrylic paint built up on these paper stencils, they actually get more durable. So don't wash them, just let them dry, and then pretty soon you end up having it all coated with paint, so it's almost like a plastic stencil. And I'm going along just experimenting as I go to come up with the different textures. And that's the ghost print from the cardboard one, which I think is really kind of cool. Now I'm going on some second layers of printing here. I like to use more of the sheer colors on my second pass through, like they're called Lame, the Turner Lame paints. It's actually, it's kind of like a really fine glitter and a really sheer binder. And the stencil I'm using here is actually one I made with hot glue. I just took a hot glue gun and squirted out a design on my silicone mat and used that for a stencil. And I really love the ghost print of that because it just gives you such really fun detail. And then I tried to pick up some leftovers, but I didn't really have that much left. I'm pressing this texture plate from Clarabelle Studio onto the mat, onto the pad, and I'm getting some really sheer pattern to go over a previous stencil, which I think is really pretty. So basically, just keep layering on colors and textures and some metallic and glittery paints until you get a really interesting design. It doesn't have to be perfect, just keep it interesting. So when I'm all done, all I do is spray this with some water or some soapy water and then just wipe off the excess paint, dry it off, and put it away for next time. Now my advice to you is, if you are doing this project, do not flick ink on it if you're printing on the back sides, because what happened here was that my ink bled through to the front. I really just wanted a little bit more interest on these, so I thought flicking on ink and rolling over it with a roller stamp and a brayer would give it some really interesting texture and pattern, and it did, except the back side of my prints got ruined. So I was kind of frustrated. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do now because I needed these in the morning and I couldn't just cut them apart the way they are because the backs were ruined. So I decided to go to bed and then come back in the morning with fresh eyes. So the first idea that I had to salvage these was to glue these prints to some thick black cardstock with spray adhesive, which I thought would work great. However, my spray adhesive did not stick. I could not get it to stick. I tried both ways that the jar recommended. I tried spraying it and letting it set up and pressing the paper on, and it didn't stick. I tried spraying it quickly and pressing it on there. It didn't stick. I even tried weighting it. It was not working. So I grabbed a permanent glue stick. This is my favorite favorite glue stick. It's the Avery one, and I just coated that sucker with glue, like seriously. And then I pressed my paper on top of that, and that worked really well. I do recommend the Avery permanent glue stick because it seems to work and bond really well. And then I just went over it with my clean brayer or dry brayer just to make sure everything was pressed down really well. And I did that for all of my prints. Next, I cut the prints into 2" by 3.5" pieces to make regular business card sized cards. And on the back, I glued another piece of cardstock that just had my name, the Frugal Crafter, and my email address, because I figured that's the best way to contact me. And I could always write one of my phone numbers on there if need be when I'm at the show. And it worked out really great. And I have to tell you that even though I had a little trouble along the way with the ink leaking through, it was a really funny story to share with the other writers at the conference. And they all immediately wanted a card because they thought it was such a funny story. I hope you found this project helpful, and maybe my tips and problems will help you avoid problems when you're making this project. I think they're truly unique business cards. They have a nice weight in the hand because of the extra thickness of cardstock, and they look fantastic. I love how metallic they are, and they're just so much fun to make. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and look at the screen and click on one of the other videos you might be interested in watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, happy crafting.